Hello, everyone. Welcome to When Shooting's Life podcast, episode 2. I'm your host, Ku Lee, and today I have a very special guest, and I am very honored to have him here today. He is a grandmaster in carry optic, limited, and limited optic. He is a father, a husband, and the definition of true leadership. He's definitely one of the best match director. He creates some of the best stages and always go beyond to make everyone happy and making sure that they have a great time. His name is Dunderi, aka Tanfo Timmy. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Excited to be on and help you grow this podcast, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Before we officially begin this podcast, just five random question. You don't have to go into details. Just give out a short answer. You ready? All right. Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram,
Cargo short or basketball shorts?
cargo shorts,
IDPA or steel challenge?
steel challenge,
Would you rather be able to freeze time or be able to fly?
probably freeze time
Would you rather be able to travel into the past or travel into the future?
into the future.
Why is that?
Um, if you go into the past, you just see what has been and you can't really do anything about it. If you go into the future, you can pull sports betting numbers like Back to the Future, man. Get rich quick.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. All right, so that's just the five random question. So yeah, man. So for those who doesn't know who you are, can you please give us a little background about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a primarily a USPSA shooter. I started in almost exactly 6 years ago, actually. Coming, I think my USPSA membership's up on the 19th of January, but started this 6 years ago. I pretty much dove in the deep end almost immediately. I really found it enjoyable, the competitive aspect. You tend to meet a lot of really, really great people in it. And so that kind of really pulled me in. And then, as the name of your podcast, especially, shooting's taken over like my entire life. I've got my kids into shooting. My son likes it a lot more than my daughter, but still got them both trying it and having fun. I've got obviously could have glazed over that, but I got a wife and two kids, a 8-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. They're pretty awesome. That's about the only thing I do outside of shooting is hang out with them. And I'm blending those together a lot. I'm a auto mechanic at a Chevy dealer. Been doing that for as long as I can remember. Um, I I'm a match director and stage designer and builder and kind of everything. I build the props for the club, all the stuff. I'm kind of a do everything because sometimes somebody's got to do it, and I just do it. I don't really know where else to go. We could go down a lot of avenues for intros, but that covers the basics.
Yeah, man. And you know what's crazy? I always tell people that especially us Minnesotans, we truly don't deserve you, man, for all the effort that you put into the sport, dude. Like seriously, like I I have not seen anyone. I've been in this sport for about I would say 3.5 years now, and I have never seen anyone put in that much work as much as you, man. So I appreciate you for it, man. Seriously.
Absolutely, and I mean, it makes it worth it to get appreciation. I mean, when I kind of took over MAPSA, I got the guys who were running it, Justin and Ryan. Justin was like, "Okay, I don't want to be president anymore. Are you going to step up, Tim?" I was like, "I don't know. It sounds like a lot of responsibility." And I mean, it is. It's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility, but it's very fulfilling. And sometimes you just need to be the change you want to see. I wanted bigger matches, more complex stages, interesting stuff. Um, Constantly upgrading, like new technology, stuff like that. And if that's what it takes, I enjoy doing it. It keeps me busy, keeps me out of other trouble, and it's a blast.
Yeah, so for those who doesn't know, what does MAPSA stand for?
Actually, the Metro Area Practical Shooters Association. I think it's been a USPSA club since like 1985. It's
Okay.
actually a really, really old club. Pretty cool.
And then for those who doesn't know, where is it located?
We're at Forest Lake Sportsman's Club. It's in Forest Lake, Minnesota. I'm
Okay.
actually a board member at Forest Lake also, so I kind of get it from all directions up there.
Okay. Yeah, man. And you mentioned about your son. He's 8. Did he just recently turn 8, or is he going to turn 9 pretty soon?
Just recently turned. Well, technically, he's not even 8 yet. Okay,
Okay.
so it's end of March. I just
Okay.
have been calling him 8 because he seems to like that more.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because I'm also planning to have my 8-year-old son shoot this year too. So that would be great, man, to have I mean, I know that there's one kid that's shooting with us right now. It would be nice to see more kids in this sport in Minnesota. So yeah, so that's why I'm
Absolutely.
asking. So yeah, how did you get the name Tenfold Timmy?
All right. So I started an Instagram. I was kind of doing shooting and I think I was obviously at the time I when I started my Instagram page, I was like I had a Glock 17, first gun I bought myself. That was probably 8 years ago. And I was shooting that. I was shooting random stuff and I bought a Tanfo. This is like shortly after, maybe 6 or 8 months after I got into USPSA. Got the Tanfo, and I just saw some people with the cool Instagram handles, like, oh man, I need something catchy, something that rolls off the tongue, and just stumbled upon Tanfo Timmy, and I kind of pigeonholed myself a little bit, but I love Tanfo, so it works out.
Okay, so I know that the Tenfolio is another version of the CZ Shadows. Um, is there a reason why you chose the Tenfolio over the CZs?
Yeah, the Tanfo's actually got a bigger frame, a bigger grip.
Mm,
It's very similar to the Shadow 2s. The Tanfo is just another CZ75 clone, basically, and it's
mm.
honestly a little more simplified inside, and it seems to be a little more robust in design too. But the biggest thing is it's just got a bigger grip. I've got relatively big hands, so when I was like holding the Shadow 2, I got almost a whole pinky finger hanging off it. So that wasn't comfortable.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I was gonna ask you, was there a slight difference? I mean, slight advantage between the Tenfolio and CZ. So pretty much for bigger guys or with bigger hands, they would want to shoot the Tenfolio over the Shadow.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
pretty noticeable difference.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just because I own a Shadow 2, and I have never. I mean, I held the Tenfolio, but I didn't know that there was a difference, just because I guess I didn't shoot it. So yeah, that's good to know, man. Um, so you said that you've been shooting USPSA for 6 years, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so how long did it take you to become a grandmaster?
Think it was about a little over 2 years.
Okay.
I think it was February of 2021, I think.
Mm.
I have to look it up to be sure, but I'm pretty sure that's when it was.
What does it take to become a GM?
Focused practice and effort.
Okay.
It's definitely that's like the eternal question. What does it take to be GM? But I just tried really hard and always tried to do everything faster and better. And just I shot a ton of ammo. I practiced all the time. It basically took over my life, and it just as it has now. So it's a lot of focused effort.
Do you think you dry fire more than live fire?
No, not even close. I
Okay.
don't dry fire much at all anymore. I'm gonna do some more to practice up coming up this upcoming year, but I find it boring. It's valuable, but it's boring to me
Hmm.
personally, and I have the capability to shoot a lot of live rounds, so that's what I do. It's a lot more fun.
Okay. All right, man. Sounds good. Yeah, I try to get back into dry fire too. It is I will admit it is kind of boring. All right.
Yeah, there's no substitute for it though. It's the work that you have to do if you want to get good.
I think for me, the reason why I find dry fire boring is because if I want to be honest, I don't know how to train in dry firing. You know, you get what I'm saying, right? So like when I dry fire, the only thing that I really work on is reloading, transitioning, and the draw. And other than that, I don't really actually know what to work on during dry fire. So I think I find dry fire kind of boring. So I did pick up a few of Ben Steger books. So hopefully that will help me be able to become better at dry firing.
I
Yeah.
got a lot of value out of that practical shooting training group. Have you seen that website of Ben Stoger and Hwantse Kim and Joel Park?
Oh yeah, yeah. I heard about their website. Unfortunately, I'm not a member, but I do watch a lot of their videos on YouTube. But I am planning to become a member on their website.
Ben had a series of just pure dry fire videos that he
Hmm.
put up on there, and I just copied them
Mm,
exactly. Just did exactly what he did, and it was so valuable because, like you said, it's hard to be inventive. It's hard to do things other than like draws and reloads and transitions.
yeah.
And a lot of that was similar, but there was some movement in there, and it just helps when it's really structured. So
Mm,
that's potentially in your own practice, you come up with a very structured thing, work in some par times, things like that. That's what you need to work on when you're trying to go faster and be consistent.
okay. So for those who are trying to become a GM, what advice would you give to them?
Do your dry fire. You gotta be practicing in an outdoor range. It's really really hard to do anything valuable in like an indoor lane setting. You can go a ways with like doubles and practical accuracy and stuff, but you got to introduce movement. And a hugely valuable thing is dry fire at the range also. Like the way I practice now, I tend to build small stages and just shoot them 100 different ways, but run through it once or twice dry because then you don't get all the noise and distraction of the gunshots, and you can see a lot more. It's really valuable, even if it's kind of boring in my opinion, but it's really valuable. And I'd say don't worry so much about your gun and your ammo. Get it so it works. That's the biggest thing. If you don't have confidence and trust in your equipment, then you're wasting your time.
Okay. All right. Um, how long do you think so as a grandmaster, do you think that your dry fire session has to be at a certain time? Well, how long does it take for you to dry fire? Do you think we have to dry for like 5 minute, 10 minute, 30 minute, or do you think it's more about setting a certain type of goal to, and then once you reach that goal, and then you just stop, and that could be within like few minutes.
I would say I like to do like 10 to 15 minutes because at the point dry fire should be really physical.
Hmm.
Like if your hands and arms aren't burning and tired after 15 minutes, you're not doing it right.
Okay.
You're not gripping your gun how you would have to in real life in a stage. Like, yeah, 5, 10 minutes of dry fire, my hands are tired. You get into that 15-minute mark, you should be sweaty, your hands are tired, and yeah, that's so I don't think extending it out much further does much good. Just be brutally honest with it in that time. Maybe you could do two a day if you really feel the need to dry fire a lot, but yeah, that 15-minute mark is more than enough dry fire that you can really get involved with.
When you dry fire, do you use those any chalk or like those grip enhancement gel?
Yep, yeah, I definitely do. I mean, I use it every single stage. I use it on all the dry fire because I want everything to be exactly the same.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. All right, man, thank you for that. So I noticed that you shot three Optic National, one in 2021, which you placed in 30 out of 282 shooters, which is just Optic. I know that during that um national they have like other divisions, but then specifically just carry optic, there were 282 shooters, and you were placed 30. And then in 2022, you placed 19 out of 427 shooters. And 2023, you placed 41 out of 500 shooters. In all of those three national matches, you were in the top 85%, which is very good. How did you manage to stay so consistent?
Um, it's kind of been the evolution. It was, I forget when it was exactly, but I remember it was one of the Minnesota section matches because I've worked just about all of them. I was shooting a staff, and you always tend to suffer when you shoot a staff. It's just how it goes. But I found a moment. I found myself pushing on every single stage, like, oh, I want to make up time here. But that's never. I finally figured out that's never how you can do it. You've got to come to matches that you care about, like nationals, and shoot your known quantity ability. Like I want to see you run a stage and be able to do it again, the same with the same hits, similar time, everything like that. It's all about consistency when you get to big matches like nationals. Like you shouldn't really swing for the fences unless it's something really deep down that you've got a little bit of room to push on. But as a your base level should be that 92% of your shooting ability is what you should be applying. You should never be trying to go 100% necessarily at a major match because
Mm,
consistency is so much more valuable than getting a stage win on one stage and then being 60% on another stage.
mm, okay.
But that kind of all works together with just practice, knowing what you're going to see, making practice difficult. Who doesn't want to go to the range and rip 7-yard bill drills or super close arrays and close steel and fun stuff, but it's not as valuable. You need to work on stuff you'll see at nationals like 25-yard poppers and 30-yard partial targets, stuff like that.
Di- How did you feel when, especially for your first national? I'm pretty sure you ran into a lot of the top shooter. Were you nervous?
Yeah, definitely. It was pretty interesting the evolution of how I've like felt going forward. Like not to brag, but like I hang out with Lane Grease a lot. He's another really super squad CO level COGM, and he knows all the other super squad guys. But when I'm with him and he's cruising around, all the super squad guys say hi to him and me, like my name. So I'm like, oh, that's cool, fangirl moment. But especially my first nationals, I was definitely nervous.
Okay. Yeah, man. I feel like I probably won't do good at a national just because I'll be too busy taking pictures with the top guys. But
Yeah, you
yeah,
just you just got to decide what your prerogative is at the time. That's
yeah,
why it's helped me a lot. I've shot a lot of big matches, a lot of
yeah,
majors. I've traveled around a lot, and you start to run into the same people at these matches. So you'll see Max at Area 6. So when you see him at nationals, it's not like whoa,
yeah.
stuff like that. But
Okay. Yeah, so for me, I haven't uh compete in a national match yet. I was planning to shoot this year for Carry Optic, but that's just a maybe. Just because I'm just so busy during the weekend. So yeah, hopefully I can make it to this year. Um so for those who doesn't know what a national match is, can you explain what a national match is?
yeah, I mean it's taken ideally the best of the best in the entire country. There's at any given point in time, there's probably 5 guys that can put it all together to that could win like a carry optics nationals. But then there's 20 guys that are fighting for those little bit of spots behind, and then I think at any given time there's like less than 200 GMs in carry optics in the country. I'm pretty sure. But you get all the best shooters. You get what should be the best quality stages you can put down. Good staff, amenities. It boils down to it's a lot like a bigger local match, but there's just way more thought and attention put into everything. So it is pretty cool. You're traveling somewhere different most of the time. Like I've been to Ohio for it and Alabama for it. That's been really cool. It's cool to go out of town and then you hang out with all your buddies and it's kind of a vacation. And then while you're shooting and during the match, it's like high pressure and you want to do well. So you got to really, really work on your mental game at that specific match. But it's a really good time.
So, for a national match, how many days is it? Is it 3 or is it 5?
It's typically 3 days.
3
You'll
days?
shoot
Okay.
a half day schedule for 3 days. Yep.
So, specifically you, what do you do after a day at national? Do you go back to your, you know, hotel and just dry fire, or do you just go in and drink? What do you do?
Um, Typically, the ideal thing to do is we like to shoot PM, AM, PM. So the first day you shoot the PM schedule, so you don't have a ton of time. You finish up at the range, you get some food, go back, go to bed because you shoot AM the next day. Then you shoot AM, and then that second day you got half a day to do whatever you want. So then you tend to go out somewhere with the buddies or back to the house and drink with them and do whatever, hang around at the match for a while and talk to all the other cool people there, afternoon squads, and then you can kind of be lazy on the final day morning because you shoot PM, and then once you get there, shoot, wrap it up, you go to the awards dinner and
Hmm.
do that. And I don't really do a ton of dry fire at the house. I
Okay.
might work on like a tough start position or something or a really specific presentation, but I feel like it's not going to do you a whole lot of good to be doing it there. You should
Yeah,
have been doing it a month ago.
that is true. That is true. So for those who doesn't know, how good do you think you have to be placed in the top 80%? Because some people that doesn't compete, they will look at it, be like, man, that's nothing. I could do that. But in reality, just being the top, in my opinion, just being the top 70% or 65% is hard enough already. So in you as a GM and you're consistently being the top 80%, how good do you think you have to be just to be able to be in the top 80%?
You got to be just miles ahead of almost anybody else. I'd say at any given time, there's 1,000 people in the entire country that can shoot to that ability in that style of stuff to finish there. But then how many can string it along? Have that consistency. You'll get some guys that'll really swing and have a stage win, but then they're still in that 70% sometimes, stuff like that. But yeah, you've got to be extremely good and you got to be good at the really specific USPSA things.
Okay. During your walkthrough on a stage, what do you think about and what do you look for to successfully execute the stage?
I think about just when I'm like stage planning wise or just walkthrough wise, what would you say?
Stage planning, walkthrough, like what do you always
No,
look for?
I'm gonna look for a way that feels the most natural. I do a lot of things on like oddly gut instinct. It's kind of a weird thing to say there, but sometimes you'll be walking through a stage, say you saw somebody else do something, and you're like, oh, let me check that way out. Oh, that feels really awkward trying to shoot that target from right there. Oh, I don't want to do that. Um, I'm looking for ways that flow, ways you can blend. So, hey, I'm over here getting two targets. I take half a step that way. I can see another target. Things like that to blend. Maybe the most ideal position to reload. I'm looking for what I want to do with my feet. I'm it's very particular to USPSA too because I've noticed in like two gun and three gun I can't be as detailed and specific with my stage plan because there's just so much going on that you'll never remember it all. But at USPSA, you're breaking it down like, hey, I want to come in on my right foot, set up, and then when I leave, I'll kind of slide my foot just to be absolutely the most efficient possible. I'm making note of like visual cues. For example, say, hey, when I come around this corner, I'll see the wall and then I'll start to see that target. I want to stop moving once I can see up to the C zone of that target because maybe that'll set me up for another target. A lot of
Mm.
small visual indicators that tell you you're in the right position for these more complicated stage plans, things like that. Um, it's, it's kind of a broad look at it. Yeah.
So, what do you think about this? So, I'm a B class shooter, and I feel like the only way for me to ever to become a GM is to take risk. Even though I don't think I might not be able to do it, but I still do it just so that I know how it feels to take risk and to go fast and put pressure on me. So, for example, I try to shoot on the move a lot. And if I messed up, then man, it just ruined the whole stage. But if I do it correctly, then I mean that's great. Uh, what do you think about those? What do you think about that mindset where if you want to become a GM, you have to think like a GM? What do you think about that? Or do you
That's
think that it's better to just be comfortable and try to be consistent as much as possible? You get what I'm saying, right?
yeah, absolutely. Nothing great is ever comfortable and easy. Um, let's liken it like a little anecdote or whatever. How do you think a race car driver learns how to drive at 200 miles an hour? He drives
Y-
200 miles an hour
Yeah.
and figures it out.
Okay.
If you're never gonna, you just at many points since I've been training and practicing, you just need to throw all caution to the wind and absolutely go insane and go absolutely as fast as you can and see what happens. You're gonna miss things. You're gonna mess up. You're gonna forget reloads. You're gonna do all sorts of stuff. But as long as you gain something from the time you spent doing that, that's it's gonna pay off. Like you'll never know how to react and how to move and shoot and do all this stuff at a faster speed if you don't try and go that fast. It's really easy to get comfortable and do good. Like that's where I'd say I was pretty much at this year. I didn't really train dedicated and hard almost at all this year, just with USPSA politics being where they were, and well, in 2024, I should say, we're in 25 now, but I didn't specifically train, so I found I was able to be comfortably good, but I could just feel it the whole time at matches. I'm like, oh, that was a good stage, but I'm like, I could feel just a delay, a hesitation all over the place, and it drove me nuts. So it makes me want to hit it hard again for this year. But yeah, you absolutely, in my opinion, throw caution to the wind and just full send. I think Mason Lane said it. If you're not missing in practice, you're not trying hard enough.
I agree, man. And I noticed that for during 2024, I decide to move as fast as I can and shoot as fast as I can. So my speed and my time has improved a lot. I do compare my time with a lot of the top guys in Minnesota, and not most of the time, but sometimes some of the matches I'm like only 10 seconds slower than like the top guys. But even though my time and my speed has improved, my accuracy has dropped majorly, and I don't know if it's because if it's because I don't know. I think it's because I think I'm moving too fast for my reaction. Because I know that you should never try slow down, but then at the same time, I'm trying to learn how to react faster. Um, so I noticed that when I do go fast, I get a lot of Charlies and Deltas. Um, what by you listening to me saying this, what advice could you give me to get more alphas?
I'd say what you're doing is you're taking this, okay, I want to move faster,
Mm-hmm.
and you're turning it into, I want to do everything faster.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily the goal. The goal should always be to move, like anything non-shooting. You're not actively shooting at a target. You're doing it at absolutely 100% of what you can do. Everything you're capable of, lay it all out when you're moving as aggressively as possible. You should be able to look back at a stage and be like, okay, in that movement, I moved as hard as I possibly could. Then when you come to shooting, you really just need to let your sights dictate. You gotta separate the shooting from the moving, and another thing, you can only shoot as fast as your sights are there, as your dot is there. What's probably happening if you get a lot of Charlie deltas, either you're getting some grip and some recoil stuff if it's vertical, or you're dragging them off. You look at a spot. Once the dot is approximately there, you shoot. If you're close enough to do a comfortable double, a max split, a reactive shot, you do it. Or predictive, sorry, but it's not about slowing down. It's about aiming harder. It's about seeing more, like getting your eyes to the target sooner, so you can shoot when the dot gets there, but then being really perceptive of what the gun's doing, and then kind of letting the movement stay fast, but not be the priority.
I think that's my issue because when I shoot in transitioning in my head, I'm telling myself, dude, go faster, go faster. So I feel like maybe I'm not even like uh my dot's not even near A yet, and I pull the trigger. As soon as I see red on brown, I pull a trigger. And I think that's my issue because I feel like, okay, if I'm waiting for the dot to hit A, then I'm gonna take too much time. But you know what's funny is that when I go on practice score and I edit my score and my time, I could still have a higher hit factor even with a slower time if I just hit alphas. So I don't want to say go slower, but I feel like think I need to go based on my vision, and my vision might actually make me slower, but I mean not so slow to the point where it's slow, but like uh I I want to at least try to hit A's. Um does that make sense? Do you think that if I take that route, do you think that will hurt me more, or should I just keep on trying to go fast and my accuracy
No,
will eventually come around?
not at all. That's what you need to do though is separate fast aggressive movement in your shooting. Still move fast and aggressive, go from one point A to point B as hard as you can, but set up, get stable, and shoot when the dot's there. You know, you want to slow down just the shooting to the level which you can confirm. You got to ratchet up the confirmation a little bit. You just got to be a little more patient on the sights. I don't. It's not ever about shooting, doing everything slower. It's about just doing what is necessary a little bit slower. And it's not, I wouldn't even say slower because it's just going to be allowing yourself more confirmation. You need to just shoot at the pace of the sights. If you're doing your job with your grip and your recoil control, that'll still be pretty fast.
Okay. All right, sounds good, man. Thank you. Um,
Absolutely.
so so I know that so for those who doesn't know, so you're a pretty big guy, right? And how are you able to move so fast and finish the stage so quickly compared to guys that are fit?
Stand by.
It's all about effort. I don't know. I've always been really good on my feet. I played football for a long time into high school. Always just been active and move around and run around, and I just don't think of anything as an excuse. I hang it all out there as like I took a Ben Stoger class pretty early on. I think it was fall of 2019, and we did a stage, and he's like, "Okay, did you put all your effort there, like 100%?" I'm like, "No." It's like, "Why not?" I don't know. And that's just what it's always been. It's always my whole mindset has always been, okay, just maximum effort. You put it out there and you learn how to deal with it. I just don't let anything be an excuse or hold me back. And it's all about just efficiency. USPSA is not necessarily a marathon. Yeah, you want me to run a 5 mile stage, it's not going to go well, but in the short distance, that can be quite dangerous.
Do you think it's also because do you think it's because your speed that is winning, or do you think it's because you're shooting sooner that is beating everyone? Well, not everyone, but most
It's
people.
it's a little bit of everything.
Okay.
It's there's no one size fits all, but yeah, I'm never going to be able to run as fast as like Ben Eggleston. You
Hmm.
can see if we get a really movement heavy stage, he's going to put time on me every time. But but yeah, through doing it, I know I'm going to shoot faster, shoot sooner, and that's really what it comes down to. It's about shaving a tenth or 2/10 of a second all over on the stage. Like, hey, I got more aggressive and I started to move out while I shot that target. I covered an additional foot of ground while somebody else didn't. So that's 1/10 of a second. And then I split faster than somebody else. That's a half a tenth of a second times 10 targets, and I transition faster. It's just about doing everything sooner and a little bit faster than your competition. And that's just one thing I've done a lot of. I've shot a lot of ammo through guns, man, and with purpose and effort and just looking at numbers, recording split times, recording transition times, and just always trying to do it faster and better.
What do you think is your average splits
Um, I'd
during
say
like matches?
it's super target dependent, but like, wow, I was really practiced up in it was it 22, late 22, 23. And I found I could do like 25 splits, 28 splits max on a 25-yard target and hold alphas. That was pretty crazy.
That that's
That was
crazy.
definitely a yeah, that there was no second aiming. It was just knowing what the gun was doing. You get me into targets like those real close 3-yard targets, I'll drop like a 12 sometimes, 13.
Sheesh.
Um, but like 15, 16, 17 is average. And then you just as target difficulty increases distance, but that's what I like to do a lot in practice is shoot at farther targets and try to shoot them faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, so I was listening to this podcast. I forgot from where, but then Tim Herron was on it, and he said that you only really need point 20 splits to become a GM as long as you're consistent. And oh, I was like, you know what, that is true because I noticed that I think right now I would have been A class if I were just consistent, but the reason why I'm not A class is because I always messed up somewhere. But then if I do everything well, then I get an A class run. But as soon as I messed up, then man, I just messed everything up. So I do think that for me, I need to work on being more consistent. Um, what advice could you give to people that are trying to become more consistent um at USPSA?
Part of it comes into like a mental game. You really need to sit down and think about what's happening, why it's happening, like when something bad goes wrong. When something happens that you would call not being consistent. Bad stage, bad whatever. You really need to like pick that apart and figure out what went wrong. Um, that's why I like to shoot a major match early in the year. For example, this year I'm going down to Missouri. There's a match at the end of March because I will take all that stage video, all that stuff, and within a week after the match, I'll watch it, I'll write it down. I'm like, this felt really hard. This felt really awkward. This didn't go well. And that's what I'm going to work on in training after that. You see where your deficiencies are and you remedy them. Um, there's tons of little drills to work on specific things, but without having a specific thing to reference. But it's just being really analytical too. Identifying what went wrong and figuring out how to fix it. That can be a hard thing to do sometimes. That's a one of the more valuable things of taking like an in-person class, like a Ben Stoger class, the first one I took. The biggest thing I gained was the ability to self-diagnose and see what I'm doing wrong a lot better, and then how to work on it and fix it.
So in your training, do you usually just train by yourself or do you have a group of people that you train with?
Um, I get the best training done by myself because then you're not waiting, you're not doing other stuff, you're not chatting. So I prefer to train alone for that part. But then
Okay.
it is fun to go out. A lot of times I'll get Ben, I will sit out with me and a couple other people, or just me and Ben, and it's really fun and humbling to get Ben out to practice because I'm like, ooh, I got to go faster, man.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, if you get a lot of people at a range training day, it turns into a fun day instead of a training day.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Um, so I know that you're super busy as a father, husband, a shooter, and a match director. How are you able to balance everything and still have the time to train and travel for major matches? So, for example, right, I have three kids. I work on the weekend, 12-hour shift. And man, dude, I feel like sometimes I don't even have time to dry fire. And I'm just so tired sometimes. Maybe I'm making excuses. Um, but like I feel like if I have the option to sleep and catch my sleep, or do I stay up a little bit to dry fire? Most of the time I go to sleep. I admit that. So in your situation, how are you able to manage everything or balance everything?
First and foremost, my wife is amazing. She really puts up with a lot. Kind of always been that way. Especially with my work shift. I work 4 10-hour days, so Monday through Thursday. So she like primarily takes care of the kids when she gets off of work, and then I get home at about 7 p.m. and hang out and help with homework and get a couple hours, and they go to bed, and then I stay up and reload, and then but I get Fridays off. So when it's nice enough out every Friday, if it's not a match day, it's a training day. At some point in time, I'll be at the range, and then um, a big one, just a side note that helped me get good was during COVID. That's when I came up. So there was nothing else to do. So I was at the range like 3 days a week. My kids were much younger then, so they were much more happy staying home with mom and hanging out. Now my son wants to go with everywhere, so that's getting interesting, but it's pretty fun. But it's about the only thing I do. Anything else I do that's not shooting related is my wife saying, "Hey, I want to do this. Okay, let's go do that." She kind of dictates the last little bit of free time, and then it also helps because like running local matches are nice. I'm home every night, so I don't quite travel as much as I used to majors since my kids have gotten older. They miss me. Oh, my son had a hard time when I was at PCSL Nationals a month ago. I'd call him in the morning before I went to the range, and he'd get all weepy, and I'm like, man, I'm like, okay, note to self, I'll bring you with next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's about the only thing I do outside of spend time with my family is shooting stuff. So that's kind of how it works out.
So
I
in
found a
Yep.
good tip is to dry fire in the morning. You wake up, do your stuff, have your coffee, whatever, and then go put in 10 minutes. That's all it takes. Because then you're not tired from work. You're not half-assing your dry fire, right before you go to bed. I think the morning is the best time, in my opinion. But
So in conclusion, for married guys, you need a very understanding wife, pretty much. Yeah,
yeah,
cause yeah,
she kind of knew what she was getting when she married me. I'm a really like what's the word? I can't even think of it. I just tend to get really into the hobbies I have. I need to stay busy. That's just kind of the kind of person I am. I don't like to sit and do nothing. So like in the winter, I do a ton of reloading, and when I've run out of ammo to reload, I do puzzles or Legos. I was doing a lot of Legos, but they get really expensive really fast. So we've moved on to jigsaw puzzles because it's much cheaper dollar to enjoyment level and stuff like that. But yeah, it helps that I need to be busy and that she knew what she was getting into. I tell her that she's not a big fan of that, but it is what it is.
yeah, man. My wife is pretty much the same too. And she is like the total opposite of me. She doesn't like anything I do, but at the same time, she don't care what I do. So that's a good thing. But then the thing about me is that I can't do everything yet just because My youngest daughter is only 3. Well, how old is she? Yeah, 3. And I gotta wait until she's 5, so for me to have more time on my hand. You only have one kid, right? Or do you have how many kids do you have?
Two.
2. And how old is your youngest one?
My son is just about 8, and my
Yep.
daughter is 10.
Okay, so yeah, so you're pretty much off the hook now. You get to do a
Kind
lot
of.
of things because your kids are like, they could kind of watch themselves, like compared to me
Yeah,
where,
they're up to that point where they can take much better care of themselves. Like my daughter is totally fine goofing around in a room for 5 hours, reading a book, playing on her phone. My son wants to do everything I do, which is cool because,
hmm
hey, if he's happy doing what I do, then we're all happy.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, man, I can't wait till my daughter is like 6 or something, man. So that way I could have more free time. So yeah, man, dude, that's great to hear about how you balance everything. So I know that major matches, like national and area matches, there's very expensive. How does your wife feel about all those expense?
I do my absolute best to split costs, find people to travel with. That's a big one, and then like booking flights that are cheap. Like I went to uh, area 5 last year, no, in 23, because I got a $98 flight to Detroit. So like, can't complain against that. That's going to be a big one. Like I was looking into going down to Texas for a big two gun match in March, but the cheapest flight down there is like $550. So I'm like, no, that's the only time I'd spend that kind of money on a flight is like to nationals, you know. Otherwise, I gotta balance it. I'm not rich by any means, and having 2 kids and all that. But yeah, a big one is finding people to split that cost with you. That's huge.
Okay. Um, in your opinion, what do you think is the best way to train to become a better USPSA shooter?
That's a pretty could be a really broad question. Just as much dry fire as many days a week as you can manage at minimum. I'd say 3. Take an in-person class if you haven't with a reputable instructor. There's a handful of them out there. People like Mason Lane, Ben Stoger, Wansa Kim, JJ Rikaza. I'm probably missing a couple, but there's some really good instructors out there, and that's uh, a huge starting point. You don't know what you don't know, so until you can have somebody watch you and be like, this is what you're doing, and this is how to recognize when you're doing that. That way, when you're in practice by yourself, 2 weeks from then, you're like, oh, hey, I did that. That wasn't good. Stop doing that. Do this instead. Work on this. You can carry that along for years learning that. So an in-person class is great. I found shooting a whole bunch of ammo is really helpful in my opinion. I've shot a lot of rounds, spent a lot of time at the range, um, just pushing harder and harder. Always thinking about stuff, about being really reflective on matches I've shot, using some local matches as like a practice session versus going there and trying to win. I'm like, hey, if I do this weird stuff this match, I'm gonna get my butt kicked up and down, but I'm not trying to win here. I'm trying to learn something and see how this works, and then live fire as often as you can. If you're on the ammo sensitive side, you only need to shoot 100 rounds, but do 3 dry reps to every live rep if you can get out to the range. Stuff like doubles drill is really helpful when you're starting out. Teaches you a good, strong, consistent grip. I did so much work on that drill when it kind of first came out, and now I still revisit it and like I feel like I have to learn all over again every time. It's like, oh, I was letting it slack. I wasn't gripping how I was supposed to. It wasn't gripping aggressive enough. Oh, I could shoot faster. Stuff like that. But it's a like I said, it's a really open ended question. It's a
Yeah.
little different for everybody. Most of all, you just got to find enjoyment in it too. I've always found satisfaction from seeing results. Kind of some people are the process, which I do enjoy, but my favorite little quote to myself is nothing motivates you to win more than winning.
Yep.
You know, you start seeing some wins in your training and your practice and that, and you got to take that fuel and keep putting it down and keep at it.
Speaking of grip, how hard do you can you walk us through your grip? Like how hard do you grip with your dominant hand and your support hand?
Yeah, I'd probably say I'm like 90-10, 90% with my support hand. I kind of rotate my wrist forward and get as much of my palm on the left side of the gun as possible. And I'm really just clamping, kind of like C clamp. And then with my firing hand, I'm kind of just a little bit, kind of squeezing front to back like that way, and pushing the web of my thumb up into the beaver tail. But otherwise, the only way to split fast is to keep your firing hand loose and relaxed. I've gotten good at that, obviously, but yeah, it's experimentation and seeing how loose you can have your firing hand and how much more you need to be gripping with your strong hand. But yeah, really hard, 90-10 at least.
In my opinion, I feel like the grip is also a mental thing too. Like so for example, I do know that you have to grip less with your dominant hand, but then when the beeper goes off, like I feel like I need to rush to grab the gun, so I accidentally grab the gun too hard, and then I start gripping the grip with my dominant hand harder than I should. So I think that's one of my issue too, is that I need to train my brain and remind myself to be like, hey man, you don't need to grip the gun that hard. I mean, you know that already, so why are you like gripping the grip so hard? Did you, in your experience, did you ever went through that stage where, when you first started and you just like, okay, you accidentally gripped the gun too hard?
Oh yeah, I mean I still do. I mean you always run into that to some degree or another. Like when I first started out and first had my tanpo, I didn't even know how to grip it right. I was like crossing my thumbs on the side and Stoger showed me, he's like, no, tip that hand a little bit and plant your palm against the side of the gun and squeeze. Like a little variation I have is I really push my index finger up under the trigger guard. So you can see in some pictures if you see my gun in my hands, that my hands are like really full on wrapped around it. But it's the mental game. That's a big part of it. Is you got to pull that out of your mind that there's portions you can't rush. You shouldn't be rushing. Ideally, don't rush anything. You kind of perform to your known quantity. Like, okay, you've done this before. You've done good quick draws in practice. Duplicate that. Don't necessarily always be pushing. That's a big light bulb that you got to hit to get that consistency down. You do it in dry fire. You get that timer out. You're running your 1-1-1-2 draws. Like I don't have a fast draw, but I do it at the consequence that I build a really good grip. My best draws are like 1-1. I can maybe pull off a second, but I don't have a good grip. The way I draw, I jam my firing hand into the beaver tail really deep, so it's a little slower, but it serves me well because it allows me to split fast and do everything I'm used to with the gun. So it's just about performing to that known quantity. You gotta get work on the mental side of it.
Yeah, man, I think that's what I need to like really work on is the mental side. Um, Earlier you were speaking about live rounds. How many rounds of 9 millimeter do you think you shoot in a year, and how much money do you think you spend in the sport in the year?
Whew.
If you
It's
don't
it's
mind sharing.
Yeah, I mean it's all a ballpark. I really don't keep that close track of it because I'd be terribly scared to see the number. But in so like 2020 and 2021, I probably shot almost 50,000 rounds each those 2 years. Yeah, I went crazy, but that's back before prices kind of went crazy. I saw the writing on the wall when COVID happened and was buying primers everywhere I could before the prices went up. So I've been reloading since before I shot USPSA. You save a lot of money that way. I'd say like once I got into 23, it was probably like 25, 30,000 rounds. and then this year probably like 15 to 18,000. And then I did a lot more rifle this year. I probably shot 5,000 rounds of rifle this year. Um, yeah, to put a number on it, it's probably $5,000 or $8,000. I don't know, something insane, but that's all I do. I don't have
Yep.
other hobbies I spend money on. I don't have a brand new car because I don't care about that stuff. Like
Yep.
I'm a mechanic, so I have a 2011 Volkswagen and a 2001 pickup. If it breaks, I fix it. I'm not trying to impress people with those, and it's what I decided to spend my money on.
Yeah, and you brought a good point too, with the car stuff. So I always tell people, especially if you're not like super rich, it's best to just have one hobby so that you could go all out on it. And when you have multiple hobbies, I feel like you're not putting your full potential in it because you're so busy focusing on every other hobby. So I think, in my opinion, you're doing great, man. Just focusing on one hobby, which I am too, because this is the only hobby I have other than shooting and spending time with my family. I don't do anything, man. Yeah. So I get you 100%. So in my opinion, $8,000, $9,000 a year in this sport, or like just in overall in a year, that's actually not that much. Compared to some people who have multiple hobbies and they spend like 20 plus K, and I'm just like, dude, imagine if you spend that $20,000 on one specific hobby. You know what I mean? So yeah, I
Right?
agree with you 100% on that, and I'm with you on that too. Um, when did you start reloading? And which
Think it
press do
was
you
like,
have?
oh, sorry, finish. I've got so I started reloading. I think it was late 2016, maybe early 2017. I bought a Glock because I was like, oh, this is cool. I should shoot a handgun. I never really thought about it. I've grown up hunting and stuff like that, some shotguns, some rifles, but never really thought much about it other than hunting season. And I was like, oh, hey, I was in my mid 20s. I'm like, I can go buy a handgun, get my permit to carry, all that. And I was like, oh, ammo's expensive. Let's look into reloading because a buddy of mine at work that I worked with reloaded. So I dove fully into that. It was really cool working up loads. And I was listening to a lot of reloading podcasts. And they're like, hey, if you're not trying competition, you're wasting your time. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, another guy I worked with shoots three gun. I don't work with him anymore, but Chad Swartout, he's a local three gunner, all around great dude. He's the one in charge of getting me into competition shooting, so he catches all the blame on that. Um, so currently at my house, I have like five different presses, but I started with a single stage Lee $99 press. I loaded a lot of ammo on that, and I got a Lee turret. It's like not much better, but it rotates the turret for you. Then I thought I got the mother of all presses. I got a Dillon 650. I probably loaded 500,000 rounds on that and all sorts of stuff
Sheesh.
over a couple of years. And then now we've got a auto drive 1100 and and then I think I still got a Frankfurt Arsenal single stage for like accuracy rifle stuff.
Which one is your favorite one out of those that you have?
For some reason, the 650 is still kind of like my favorite just because I put so much time in on that press. Oh man, so much time.
So for the auto press, do you think it's worth it?
It can go two ways. Like it really helps that I'm mechanically inclined, because I feel like I spend half of my time keeping the components full while it crushes ammo. It loads super fast, does great, and then I spend the other half of the time debugging it and readjusting parts and fixing little mistakes. But I enjoy it. That's like just kind of I enjoy that part. So if you're a little bit mechanically inclined, I think it's great. Um, you can spend a lot more money and get like a Mark 7 that they kind of fix through all sorts of little issues, but still it's going to have trouble and stuff. But I think at the volume I shoot, it's a no brainer that it's worth it. Yeah, it's hard to think about paying 60 cents a round for a rifle and and 20 whatever 28 cents around for pistol ammo. Like it'd be crazy. I wouldn't have any money.
Yeah, and good thing you brought that up too, because I was gonna say, so I know this buddy of mine, and he has an auto press, right? But he doesn't compete and he doesn't shoot that much. So I was like, dude, I mean, it's great that you could afford for it and you have the money to buy whatever, but I feel like you're actually wasting money buying that because it's not like you shoot that much. So, when it comes to like auto press, I always tell people like the first question I ask them, do you compete? If you don't compete, I don't think it's worth it because like I have a 7 XL 750 and I don't know how many rounds I shoot a year. But not as much as you, obviously, but still more than an average gun owner out there. And I don't even have auto press because I feel like the amount that I shoot is not even worth buying auto press just because, well, for me, I like to be cheap too, also. So I only load the amount that I shoot and then I just and I start reloading. Once I have enough, I start reloading and then until I need it and then I start reloading again. So for me, in my state, at my stage, I don't think I will ever buy. I don't need an auto press at the moment. So yeah, I just want to share you that story where I feel like my buddy he wasted money on that auto
Right?
press.
It's not seeing its full potential.
Yeah.
But hey, like if people have the money
Yep.
and who are we to knock people's
Yep.
expensive hobbies, right?
Yeah. That's why I was like, man, it's great
But
that you have money to buy whatever you want, but if you're gonna buy that, do it. At least come out and compete. At least come out. And
right,
then once you start competing, you will see how fun the sport is, and then that's when you will really start to use your auto press. Um,
definitely.
yep,
Like for example, a Dillon 650 or 750 with a bullet feeder and a case feeder. I loaded 50,000 rounds a year, maybe 60 or 70, and didn't shoot them all.
yep,
you can crank out ammo on those. It's not that bad of an operation. So like I would get it where I got 10 primer tubes, so I'd fill up to 10 primer tubes, so I had 1,000 primers. I'd crank out 1,000 rounds on the press in like 2 or 3 hours, 2 hours if I was quick, 3 hours if I was taking my time. And then I'd fill the primer tubes back up, hang them up, and be done for the night. And I'd do that as many nights of the winter as I could, and that was a year's worth of ammo. You can go long ways without needing the auto drive, but for volume, and at this point, I assemble ammo for all sorts of things. So
do you have your son help you with with the reloading, or do you do
yeah, a
everything by
little bit.
yourself? Oh, just a little bit.
He's uh he's in that age where he wants to do it, but he only wants to do it for 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
bro, this is an hours long process, not just 5 or 10 minutes. Like I made some dummy rounds real quick last night for Matthew Wrongstetter. I never can pronounce his last name, but my son was like, "Ooh, I want to help." I'm like, "Okay." I got the brass out and the bullets I had, and set the little turret press up with no powder and no primer
yep,
and stuff. And he made like 15 of them. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go back and do what I was doing before." Like,
yep.
but he enjoys it. He definitely likes it. He likes the idea of it and all that stuff.
Yeah,
But
man, my
otherwise, I
son.
try to keep him a little bit separate from like the actual brass processing because lead is
Yeah.
always a big concern. Anytime he comes in and plays with stuff, I'm like, you realize you come in my reloading room, no matter what, you have to go wash your hands when you leave. Like it's non-negotiable.
Yeah, but yeah, my son is exactly the same. I reload in the garage and he comes out, he want to help out, and then he realized that man, that this is boring. So yeah, after like 5 minutes, he goes away. Um, so I know that you're sponsored by Brass Monkey Bullets. For those who are not sponsored, how does sponsorship works?
There's all sorts of different sponsorships out there. Anything from like a one-time, hey, here's some bullets, or you get a discount code that's just for you, or like you get a percentage of sales like with your code. There's a lot, but realistically, it just boils down to asking companies.
Mm.
and then having something to offer them. That's the biggest thing. You know, I completely by accident made this big Instagram page and made this whatever, whatever Chancellor Timmy is by being me and having fun, and it works. It gets info out to a lot of people. I don't necessarily take any random thing and be like, oh, we'll sponsor you. Okay, give me that and I'll shill it to people to buy it. No, like I'm repping stuff that I was using anyways.
Hmm.
Like for example, with Brass Monkey bullets, I started shooting those in like mid 2020 because he was the only place that actually had bullets in stock. I was Google searched 9mm bullets. I'm on like the second page of results. I come up on this. He was a really small company back then, and I see the thing. So I think I sent a message. I'm like, "Do you actually have these in stock?" He's like, "Yeah." So I ordered a case, and they got to my house 2 days later. I was like, "Whoa!" So ever since then, I was shooting them, and after shooting them for like 6 or 8 months, I just asked about a sponsorship, and we've grown crazy since then. That was a big thing I told him. I was like, the having things in stock and not waiting. Like generally, he gets bullets to people anywhere in the country in 3 days. There's been issues with the postal service, which aren't on his end, sadly, but it sucks for some people because he gets the pallet of bullets to the post office, and then the post office loses them for a week. But but yeah, that's a huge thing, and Brass Monkey's fantastic. They're some of the best priced bullets around. I will always absolutely talk about them.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it too because I also shoot brass monkey because of you. So because I kept looking at your shirt, I was like brass monkey bullets. What the hell is that? So I went and looked it up, and I'm like, oh, okay, these are for you to reload. And I went on their website, and damn, dude, their price is like good, dude. It's very affordable compared to like
Yep.
other bullet brands. So, uh, Brass Monkey is the only bullets that I'm ordering from right now and shooting. And so far it's great in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm sticking with Brass Monkey for now. Brass Monkey
Yeah,
bullets
you
for
you
now.
have all the yeah you have all the white coated ones, the new coated.
Yeah. I was gonna ask
Yeah,
you
that
about
was a.
that. Is there a reason why they went from green to white? Because in my
I'm
opinion,
not sure.
the green is more prettier. So, so I was like, why did they
I do.
switch over to the white?
I like how the green looks. Originally, he had like gold and black speckled ones, but the white coating is just a different, better, more robust coating. And he was put together a bunch of different colors to like see what looked coolest. And I was like, whoa, that black and white is super cool. So that's kind of what it just boiled down to. It's just a better quality coating than the green, so you get less smoking, less stuff
Mm.
like that, and that's the big thing. And it just ended up with the white and black looking really cool, and he wanted to find a better quality coating, and that's what it ended up as.
Yeah, I think when I started, because I just started reloading the end of 2023, and I think they already switched over to the white coating. So I mean, I saw you guys were shooting the green coating, and I was like, and when I got the box, I was like, man, this is not even green. Did I get the wrong one? And then I was like, I went in on their page, and they switched over to the white one. So I was like, okay, so yeah, so that's why I have all my brass monkey bullets are white.
Yeah, you'll
Um,
see me. I had the green ones because I loaded a year's worth of ammo in like January, and so I had the green ones, and I hadn't had any since he switched. But now we're all on the new coated ones.
so when you reload, do you like to reload and have a bunch in stock, or do you? So, well, I know that you load a couple thousand at once. So, do you always like once you get to a certain limit, do you reload more, or do you wait until you you run out and then you start reloading again?
I try to load all the ammo I'm going to shoot in the year in the winter,
Hmm. Okay.
all of it. It can be kind of scary, so I do like lot testing. I'll load a bunch and double check some of it by shooting it, chronoing it, then store it away. 50 cal ammo cans of brass. One year I did 5 gallon buckets, but a 5 gallon bucket full of 9mm doesn't move once it's
Yeah.
full.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'd like to. I'm really busy, so in the summer I want to be shooting. I want to be setting up matches, running matches, practicing, doing stuff with my kids. So I use all these cold winter nights in this dark, cold state we have, and just load ammo like a madman.
What grain of 9 millimeter do you reload?
I had done 130s for a long time. When I shot stock twos, I liked the 137s because it was a really nice balance of like soft recoil, but it didn't feel as slow and like as sluggish as a 147. And then I got the stock masters like 2 years ago. They were a longer slide, longer barrel. They felt pretty slow with the 137s. So I went with a 130. So I loaded a lot of 130s. And this year, I actually figured out with the profile on his 125 grain bullets, I can load them longer. They tend to be a little more accurate when you can load them longer. And I don't mind the increased muzzle flip because it still tracks really clean and crisp, straight up and down. And that's I'm shooting 125s this year for the majority of the stuff. I kind of just dabbled with the 160s, big, heavy, slow bullets, which feel great in polymer guns like a Glock. If I was going to shoot my Glock more, I'd get more of those and load them up for that. But and then I got some 115s. I've got that handful with the single port comp cut in it. I load 115s with just an absolute pile of powder in there. That's like 150 power factor.
Do you think it's worth reloading 115 when you could just buy 115 for a decent price?
Where can I buy 115s that do 1280?
You know what? My bad. I forgot. The reason why I'm asking, I forgot. I mean, because I work at Federal, so I get deals on 115, so I don't even care about the velocity and stuff. So I forget that um not everyone has a deal on 115. So forget that question.
But even then, yeah, if I was just going for the bullet weight, like yeah, it'd be cheaper to probably buy it half the time. But I'm loading them very specifically with a slower powder that creates more gas to help run that compensator on the gun.
Okay.
You can feel a huge difference. Sometime when you're out of the match, I'll have to have like regular ammo and then the special ammo for it, and you'll night and day difference. It feels like a real open gun with the 115s I load for it.
This might be a stupid question, but do you for each uh grain weight difference, do you change the recoil spring weight or do you
No,
just
I never
stick
have.
to one recoil spring weight?
I did a lot of goofing around trying to find the best one, and I finally found the 9 pound recoil spring in Tampos, which is really light, but it works great with all the stuff I shoot through. But you could absolutely tune a recoil spring to work better with ammo, like with my ported comp Tanpo, I could probably go a little lighter and because you don't need the slide. The slide's not as heavy, and you're losing some velocity with the port and a lot of scientific things. But I haven't noticed any detriment. I know some people like a heavier recoil spring, but I notice if I get much heavier, it starts to dip the
Hmm.
muzzle back onto target. Like your first shot will be right at the no shoot perf picture, and then the second shot will be 2 inches low
Yeah.
with a heavier spring. That's kind of the testing I did. I finally settled on the 9. It's really light spring, but I love how it works.
Okay. Yeah, because that's my thinking too, because everything I shoot with or all my competition gun, I stick with the 11-pound spring. I would like to try something lighter, but I don't have it, so the 11 is the lightest I have. So, yeah, okay. I was just wondering if the recoil spring will make any major difference, but yeah, okay. Um, I forgot what I was gonna ask you. What is your favorite gunpowder brand or
Um,
gunpowder brand and model number?
I'd say like Vitavori N320. It's like the gold standard for 9 millimeter minor. It's just awesome. I didn't believe it for a long time. I loaded Tight Group because it was cheap,
Hmm.
really cheap back in the day, man. Pre-COVID, it was $18 a pound. but I had a bunch of that. I loaded like 130 power factor ammo, and then I blamed Nick Dahlberg for my addiction to expensive gunpowder. He had some M320 loaded ammo, and I was chronoing, he chronoed, same exact power factor, within like half a power factor. And I shot him back to back, and my gun and M320 was noticeably softer. It was crazy. I wouldn't have believed it if I didn't shoot it myself. And that settled that. So for match ammo and maybe half of my practice ammo, I'll load that M320. And then for like other practice ammo, just because it gets expensive, I get cheaper stuff like Winchester Win 231, or I forget what, I've got a couple different ones, but that's my go-to. Other powders, Win 231, still pretty economical, pretty good all-around powder.
So with so many brands out there, how do you determine which one to buy? Like b before you even test them, like if you go to a store and you're brand new to reloading and you're looking at all these brands, well, how do you pick one? What advice would you give to like people that are new to shooting or reloading? How do you think what is the best advice for you could give them to pick the right one? Or not the right one, but a one that they should start with and why?
When I started, I looked at like a reloading data, like a book or online, and figured out the one that took the lowest charge weight, the least
Hmm.
amount of powder. Just hey, that's how you save more money. And it
Hmm.
was Tight Group.
Mm.
It does the job. It's great. You gotta first, if you're gonna reload, you need to kind of figure out your desired usage.
Hmm.
Are you loading soft minor power factor 9 mil for USPSA? Are you loading hunting ammo, like defensive stuff that you want nice and hot and strong and fast? And then you can hit Google and find a ton of information. Like I've got one powder, it's Alliant powder BE86. It's a really strong, good powder. It's really flash suppressed and get really good velocities with all the stuff I load in it. But I use that for higher velocity stuff I want, goofing around. M320, tons of info on Google, man. That's a lot of people are saying it's the best powder for what we're doing, USPSA. Um, I have some Winchester Auto Comp and some HS6. I got that because I ran Google and talked to open shooters, and that's one of the powders that creates the most gas volume that will run a compensator better. So that's why I picked that up for the compensated gun. And then rifle powder, you can get into the same thing. There's just endless amounts of information, but your desired use case, a big one I load for rifle is ram shot tack, just because very versatile. I can load 223 and 308 with it. A couple
Mm.
other things too. That's nice. So it's kind of a one powder does it all, which is a nice feature. I did just find some Vitavori N135 that I through exhaustive searching found was like really one of the best powders you can put behind a 69 grain bullet in a 223. So I'm gonna load up a bunch of those for like really accurate long range ammo for 3 gun, stuff like that.
And this is why I'm glad I know you. Because
Hey man, I learned.
I I felt bad asking you all these stupid questions when I have questions about reloading, and it's because I'm brand new, but man, I'm glad that I know you because you're the guy that I always ask question about reloading stuff. So I appreciate, man.
Yeah,
I
like
appreciate you taking your time to like even answer all these little questions that I could be like researching on my own. But I feel like, well, I think I would prefer asking someone that's more experienced, what that has a lot of experience in it already, and just give me like direct answer, like, okay, this is my recipe, blah blah blah. And okay, all right.
like I learned a lot of things the hard way, the
Mm-hmm.
trial and error, the doing it yourself and failing sometimes way. So anytime I can share knowledge I have specifically with people, I love it. Especially on Instagram. I get DMs all the time. A lot of stuff about Tanpos, a lot of Tanpo parts this, Tanpo doing that. I love to help because like Tanpos are cool. It's kind of a niche thing. So even reloading is pretty small. I don't generally offer like unsolicited advice because most people aren't even at the level where they understand it.
Yeah.
But I absolutely don't mind, and I love when people ask me questions because I like to share that knowledge because that's you just help grow the sport and grow the community by being knowledgeable and helpful.
Yeah, and this is why I say that you're the true definition of leadership, man. You don't hide anything from us, man.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, man. Appreciate that, man. And I'm pretty sure a lot of
Absolutely.
people agree with me that you're we don't deserve you, man. Um s- yeah. But
Just
I'm
trying to
very
put on good matches and be a good
yeah.
person most of the
Yep.
time. Most of the time.
All right, let's move on. So let's move on to PCSL stuff. So I noticed that you were shooting some PCSL two gun matches during 2024. In your opinion, how difficult is PCSL two guns compared to USPSA?
It can be a lot more difficult depending. I when I first started doing the matches and designing stages, I figured out I made the stages way too hard because I was used to like the mental energy you'd put into a USPSA stage, but doubling that. And I realized you can't quite do that when it comes to like two gun and multi gun because then you have two guns. It's twice the size. You can't make things quite as complicated. So that was a little bit of a learning curve. And I'm trying to be remember to do like more beginner friendly stuff like at the beginning of the year like our first PCSL match this year will be a lot simpler and straightforward so the much newer people don't get their feelings hurt too bad but I don't want to baby people at matches either, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You're
Hmm.
never going to get better if you come and shoot 10-yard targets with a rifle. um but it can be more difficult but it's also got a really low barrier to entry because the divisions are very simple competition or practical. You know, I shoot competition because why not run big mags and everything? But um, yeah, it's you can show up with any AR and just about any pistol and shoot it. So it just comes down to first being able to hit the things and then being able to remember and do it fast. I wouldn't say it's super difficult, just super difficult to get really good, like anything should be.
Okay. Which one do you prefer, USPSA or PCSL, and why? And it could be PCSL one gun or two gun. Which one do you prefer, USPSA or PCSL?
That's kind of tough. This PCSL two gun, for example, is it's still really new. It's
Hmm.
growing. I think it's gonna do really well. It's still in the really early phases, but I'd say if it was as established as like USPSA, I would easily pick two gun. Be ready. Stand by.
Hmm.
It's a lot more interesting. The rules are a lot more common sense and less esoteric than USPSA, which don't get me wrong, USPSA has a lot of rules because people have done dumb things and had to make somebody make a rule about it. But
And they've been
uh,
around way longer, so they see more like dumb shit, dumb stuff compared to PCSL.
yeah, they've
Yep.
seen a lot of stuff. So, you know, I understand why there's rules there
Yep.
because somebody has done that. You know, you
Yep.
gotta do that. It's I'm not knocking it. It's nice to have that unified rule set that's generally consistent everywhere across the country. You know, USPSA is still awesome. It's took a bad turn there for a while, but everything's getting better, and I'm pretty excited for this year to shoot both USPSA two gun and some three gun.
Mm. Three gun, man. Speaking of three gun, um, which okay, so for me, the reason why I don't think I will ever do three gun is not because I don't think it's fun. I think it's fun, but I cannot. I don't think I have. I don't think I could afford for shotgun shells, and I think that's what's keeping me away from three gun. So since you're planning to shoot three gun, which shotgun are you planning to compete with?
But currently, I've got a Turkish clone of a VR80 that was $200,
Hmm.
and it's got a handful of hours of work into it between me and my buddy. Um, it's actually running fantastic. We had an issue at the last match where the charging handle fell out. It had like a spring-loaded detent, must have worn out. So we took the detent out, drilled it out, tapped it, put a set screw in there instead, Loctited that in. So I shot probably 50 rounds through it a week ago. Some slugs, some buckshot. We're gonna see how it works. I mean, and then the cool part about three gun is your shotgun goes down during a match. You got seven people standing there saying, "No, shoot mine! No, shoot
Hmm.
mine!" They're very awesome about that. Three gun is such a good community. That's part of what makes me enjoy it so much.
I think the shooting sport in general community is great. Because I remember when it was I mean, never done three gun, but my first USPSA match. Man, dude, everyone was so helpful. I'm pretty sure AJ Quinn don't remember this, but he was the guy that just stepped in and showed me everything I need to know, like the rules and everything. So I was like, yeah, dude, and when it was my first match ever, I went there. I didn't know that it was cash only, so I didn't have any cash on me, and uh, Justin and them they let me shoot for free. So I always tell people, man, the shooting sport community is the best because everyone's so humble. Everyone understands that you know it's your first time. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what's the right gear. So hey, you could use mine, or here, hey, take a picture of my gear, and then go home and do some research. So yeah, dude, I that's why I love this sport, man, because so much the people are so humble.
Yeah, absolutely agree there. It's a large part of all of it,
Yep.
community.
Um, so in PCSL, um, their target is a little bit different compared to USPSA and IPSC. They have a K zone. For those who doesn't know what the K zone is, can you explain what the K zone is?
Yeah, the K zone is just kind of a way to make the targets more interesting. It's kind of in the head box, eye box area, but K stands for kilo, not other things like people might think, because it's worth 10 points. Where in any on any USPSA target, it would take two hits to neutralize on your standard two hits per target. So in PCSL, one shot in the K zone counts as two alphas because it's a much smaller, harder to hit area, and it rewards your accuracy with not having to shoot another shot at it. Um, there's a Max Leograndis actually has a newer version of the PCSL target in the works where the K zone's smaller.
Hmm.
I think it's renamed as the T zone to get rid of any negative connotation, so it can be more friendly around the world, European and stuff like that. And then it's shaped more like an IPSC target. Get rid of the silhouette and the head box target that mainstream stuff doesn't like. But the K zone's smaller, and then there's Charlie around the T zone. There's Charlie around it instead of Alpha, which will
Mm.
make it even more of a risk reward situation, which is enjoyable. It's a fun dynamic. It's a new thing,
If I'm gonna be honest, I thought that the K zone stand for kill.
right? A lot of people do. That's why Max changed it to the T. In
Man,
realistic, it's
yeah. What was that?
it's like in realistic circles, yeah, that's where you'd shoot at a threat
Yeah,
if it was an issue. It'd
yeah.
work really good. That's where you hit them, but in order to hopefully make it more palatable to Europe and especially if we want to get shooting sports more mainstream, some people don't want to see you shoot silhouette targets that look like people.
Yeah, I think that's kind of lame, man. Like, I think people are way too sensitive, dude. Like, it's just a
Yeah,
target. You shouldn't even be offended by the shape of the silhouette and everything. But I guess it is what it is. I get it from the business side. I get it.
yeah,
From the feeling side, man, F your feelings, man.
yeah, exactly.
Um, so so you said that the K zone count as two alphas, right? So do you think there's an advantage aiming for the K zone with just one shot? Do you think it will save you time, Or do you think it's best to just aim at the A zone and double tap like in USPSA?
So the secret trick to doing well at two gun is to aim at the head neck line.
Hmm.
Because if you aim center mass on those, you're only like 3 inches from the bottom Charlie zone. Really easy to dip shots into the Charlie. So you hold higher than you would on a USPSA target. And if you go a little high, you get a K zone hit. If you go a little low, you're still alpha, so two alpha. That's on like a general target. Some closer targets, if you want to, for example, conserve your round count because you don't want to have to be forced to reload at an
Hmm.
inopportune position, carefully aim one shot, boom, you just got one more round in the mag. Or very close targets, or potentially targets you'd have to aim hard at anyways. It can present a little bit of dynamic, but generally I'm spraying two at targets because I don't slow down that much for those.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, because at your skill level, I feel like at your skill, or just the people that are very good and very fast at it, I feel like taking your time to hit the K zone with one shot would actually make add more time on your time. So I feel like it's best to just double tap, because
Yeah, it's
or
not
do
going to
you
add much
disagree?
more time.
What's that?
No, I don't disagree at all. It's not going to add much more time
Yeah.
for me to generally aim and shoot a predictive pair
Hmm.
at that K zone. Like, yeah, if it's just the K zone, you're going to be aiming harder anyways, or stuff like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's very situationally dependent.
Okay. Um. So I saw that you competed in the PCSL two gun national last month, December. How was the match for you?
Oh, it was phenomenal.
Are you ready? Stand by. Yeah.
I've never seen a match that was absolutely full of stages that quality. Normally at major matches, you're going to see maybe half of the stages are really, really, really well done. Then some of the other ones are kind of like so-so, and then maybe one or two that kind of gets phoned in and wedged in somewhere to fill space or to up round count. But you could see every single stage had its own unique set of difficulties and just made really good use. There was two natural terrain stages, which was really cool. One was in a like a old riverbed canyon because it's out in Arizona in the desert. Another one kind of was on top of a big top of a canyon, so you shot down at some longer distance steel and
Mm.
then kind of ran around. But it was an extremely well done match, and it really set the standard for what a nationals match should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, for those people that doesn't know, a two gun match or a three gun match, the stage tends to be way bigger and longer than a one gun match. Um, how many stage were there for the PCSL two gun national? Do you remember?
There was 12 stages.
How did you? Oh, and it was a 2 days match, right?
Yeah, for staff, it was
Yeah.
3 days for regular
Okay.
competitors.
How did you feel after one day of shooting a PCSL two gun match?
Not too bad. It's I'd consider like what we did each day was like one like medium sized major USPSA match a day. It was
Okay.
still a lot of shooting, but no,
You did,
it was
okay.
great.
Yeah,
It
I
was
was gonna
very
ask if you
physical.
feel
I was
fatigued.
tired. I was beat
Okay.
up, man.
All right.
But
How do you think your rifle skills compared to your handgun skill?
My rifle ability is probably 20% of my what my pistol ability is. It made a That's where you could really tell the rifle heavy stages I lagged behind a lot. Like I get the idea, I'm able to shoot it fast and move fast with the rifle, but it's a it's a wholly different aiming scheme
Yeah.
for the kind of accuracy you need. I was running a rifle with just red dots on it, which because you don't really need much magnification in PCSL. The maximum distance is 200 yards at an 8 MOA target. So, but I'm used to seeing a flash of red and shooting because pistol red dots,
Hmm.
and so it's just I really want to put a lot more work in with rifle this year because that's where my worst stages were the two big rifle heavy stages, and you can see because I'm just not that familiar with it. I just haven't shot that much of that kind of rifle.
Do you think you were placed pretty high too for your first and that was your first two gun match, I'm assuming, right? Or
First,
not
like
not
official one,
matches,
yeah,
national. Your first
yeah,
national.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, my bad. Not match. Your first
Oh, no
national
worries.
two gun match. And you were placed pretty high on that one too for your first time. Do you think um being good at a handgun is easily translated to uh a a rifle?
Yeah, very much so. Being a good pistol shooter really, really transfers to rifle much better than being a good rifle shooter translates to pistol. That's been proven. Like rifles are more forgiving with their aiming, and if you have trigger control on a pistol, your chances are your trigger control with a rifle is going to be much better. But just some of the mechanics and like sight picture confirmation was a big one too that I just wasn't fully tuned up on. Just not really aware of how much confirmation was required for especially for longer distance rifle stuff like that. Like one, we had like a 50-yard rifles paper swinging target, shot two mics on it. Felt like good shots, but two mics, and I'm just like,
Mm,
because I've never seen it before, and I just had no idea what to expect and what not to expect.
okay. All right. Let's see. Let's move on to your match director life. Um, so first thing first, as a match director, is being a match director exhausted?
It
Exhausting.
can be,
Okay.
yeah, it absolutely can be. It just matters how seriously you take which parts of it. If I it's even hard to say, but I don't expect a ton from it in return necessarily. So I'm just doing the best I can with what I have, and people enjoy it. They do, and I get a lot of good feedback, and that's really awesome, and that makes me excited and wants me to do it even more. And I've learned my goal for this year is to bring more people into helping with it because it is a big job. We're running more and more and more matches, crazy numbers of people turning out. So I just want to get more people in to help, and I like to reward people. Like apparently, it's not commonplace to comp the whole match for people that help set up, but I do that for every single person that comes out, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, it can get exhausting at times, but I like to stay busy, so it works well for me.
Do you feel like quitting sometime?
Never really have, no. No. I'm gonna be doing this for a long time, I think.
Man, you got a big heart, man. Oh man, you got a lot of patience because I could imagine uh all the time and effort that you got to put into this sport as a match director, dude. And like 'cause I came out and helped you set up a few stages before. Man, dude, that shit is tiring, dude. I admit, dude, that is so tiring, like and then sometimes like people don't come out and help you. And so I put myself in your shoe, like if I have to set up the stage and if it was just me and a few guys, I'm gonna be like, you know what, F this, dude. This this is too tiring. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying, dude. You got a big heart, And you're super patient, dude. So that's good, man. We don't deserve you, man. Gotta say that one time.
Thanks, man. It comes down to like think of the reward you feel from doing good at shooting, right?
Yes.
Doing good at a shooting match. I get a lot of reward from this that way, like putting on a good match and putting out good challenging stages and improving things. You know, I always look for ways to improve. That's a big one. Like yeah, we don't have 50 people helping set up stages. So what have we done? We took money we made from our hosted matches, bought power tools, hammer drills, built new stuff that sets up easier. I try to streamline everything I can all the time. That's a big thing because like the club makes a decent amount of money and nobody gets paid. You know, Forest Lake gets a range fee, which is great. They've been incredibly helpful. We're super thankful we ended up there for a home range and so any other money made goes right back into the club with stuff. Like I just bought a couple more AMG timers and a couple of those phone tablets so I can run 10 squads for major matches. I just bought 10 poppers. I get to build bases for those and I say I get to because I kind of want to. I enjoy that part still. So like I said, it works out a lot of ways. I get a lot of benefits from it that I stay busy and I get to do stuff I enjoy, even if I get paid nothing.
Oh man, that was gonna be my next question because I was gonna ask you, as the match director, do you get to pocket any of the profit for yourself?
No, sir.
So all right. Oh man, yeah. Okay.
We're a nonprofit
Hmm.
corporation. It's a social club, like a 501(c)(7), I think. Um, yeah, it's all about, and honestly, in my heart, it's all about making shooting sports better. Like this is an awesome thing. It brings a lot of people together. What a good skill to have if you ever needed it to be able to shoot guns well.
Yep.
Um, and yeah, the only way to grow it is to make it user friendly and enjoyable. And it's just another thing that I can try really hard to be good at, you know?
So maybe you, if you, maybe you might not know this answer, but do you know how much Forest Lake spend every year for like new equipments and everything for the sport?
Forest Lake does a whole bunch of things other than just USPSA.
Yeah.
Um, they tend to do it every couple years as needed. So I'm not sure on
Mm,
that. I've only been active there like on the board for about a year. Um, it's a big range and there's a lot of overhead, you know.
yeah.
They bring in considerable money in membership dues, but one of the big things we're doing, I think that's going to be awesome is we're saving money every year, putting it in a capital improvement fund. So there's a property at the end of the range between the range and the Interstate 35 there. That's 5 acres. Eventually, that's going to come up for sale, and we're going to try and buy that and build 10 more bays over there,
Mm,
stuff like that. But yeah, it's a constant improvement. Every time we can, we try to make stuff better. We just got some new, really nice solid steel rubber top shooting benches on the 100-yard bays. We got some lighting in the 25-yard shooting house at gate one. Joel Meyer, he's the assistant manager there. Very active, very busy, always there doing something. And then Ron Westford, they're great guys, and I'm so glad that I'm a member there and found it when I did and all that.
damn. Damn. That's
There's
a
a
lot.
lot goes on there.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like for me, I'm just a guy who come and shoot. So, man, that sounds like that's a lot of headache just to be a match director. Uh, yeah. Okay. Um, as a match director, how many stage do you think you have built from ever since you became a match director?
Like
Roughly
put
how?
on the ground.
No, like you design
Oh, I would say 300.
300
That's a ballpark.
within how many? How long have you been a match director for? Again,
I started helping, I want to say in 2022 at some
2022.
point.
So pretty much like 100 stage a year you design.
Yeah, and I mean,
Or
right
I'm pretty
now I'm
sure
doing
I was
stages.
just estimating, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Yeah, it's up and down. It's a little bit here and there. Like a big thing I do when I go deer hunting, spend a couple days up north, but I bring my stage builder with me,
Yeah.
and then in lots of downtime because you're either hunting or you're not a lot else to do. So I build a lot of stages for the year there. This year I'm branching out. I've been building some stages for multi-gun nationals. That'll be at
Mm.
Forest Lake this year. I do the stages for stock and barrel at Chanhassen.
Hmm.
And then often I get people that DM me on Instagram and ask if I've got any cool stages for this or for that. And I submit stages for some majors and stuff like
Mm.
that. So
Nice, nice.
it's fun.
So what do you think about when you design a stage?
Typically, I will have seen something somewhere on Instagram at a shooting match, some element of a stage that I really enjoyed that was cool. And then I build that element and then I design a stage around it that try to stay on a somewhat of a theme. I've never really done much of like a theme stage where everything is like one thing, but just try to make some interesting shooting positions, ability to shoot on the move, some difficult target presentations, and then yeah, it kind of just flows out. When I build a stage from the ground up, like I've had to start doing some of that because I need more stages, especially interesting new ones for Northwoods this year. And I'll build a shooting area. Something will come to mind. I'll build a shooting area, and then I'll start adding targets and walls. And I'm like, okay, now I got to make somebody go to this specific area in the shooting area, or why did I build it? So you can put a reason to go over there, and then you can work through little nuances. It probably takes half an hour to build a really well thought out, put together stage in a designer.
Oh, okay. When you sign up for a match on practice score, right? And they say level one match, level two match, level three match, does that mean the difficulty of the stages, or what does level one, level two, level three matches mean?
Those are just arbitrary things set by USPSA. So level ones just have a slightly different set of rules they can use. A level two, for example, has to have like more certified ROs and a range master, an official range
Mm,
master.
okay.
So for like level ones, I'm the de facto range master unless I appoint a different one. And then there's actually an appendix in the USPSA rulebook that describes it, but it doesn't have anything to do with the stages other than
Mm,
for level two and above, you have to submit the stages for review, which I personally think is a joke. I've seen stages that are blatantly illegal built at level two matches. I'm like, well, somebody dropped the ball. But
okay, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I always thought that, yeah, beside like, because I noticed that major matches are like level two and stuff like that, or level three. I was just like, does that mean that the stage are harder? But okay, so all right, well that answered my
you would like to
question.
think,
Was
yeah,
that?
you'd like to think at a level. The goal would be for a level two to have difficult, more interesting stages, and then a level three would have even more interesting in that. And I personally think it's just arbitrary. I try to build the best stages I can,
Hmm.
and like the only constraint on my local match stage quality is the amount of time I have to set up. You know, I have like 6 hours. Like for my Northwoods match, the stages are fantastic because we have 3 days to build them
Mm,
because we put that time in. I take time off work. We get people out there. We build a stage and we spend 45 minutes perfecting it. Where we don't have that much time for local matches. We still do our best, but
yeah,
we don't spend the same amount of time because it's impossible. We would run out of time.
yeah. Do you prefer to have more targets or more steel on a stage when you design it? Which one do you think is more funner?
I think steel's really fun, but if you had that to be what was most fun, I would like the opportunity to be shooting on the move and blending a lot, like those stages where you can kind of flow through it and never stop moving. Those are really fun. Also, really difficult to design and get out on the ground perfect. But I tend to try to put skill in most of the stages I build because I think it adds a good challenge. It'll really slow people down a lot if they're not good at steel. It makes that room for separation, so to separate the people. Say the C class guys are going this fast, the B class is going this fast. You get a GM that comes through and burns down all the steel. It's a good tool.
So, as a GM, why do you think people tend to miss at steel when it's the goal is to hit the A zone, right? But then somehow, right when it comes to steel, people can't shoot it, or
Because they
like
don't
they
aim
keep
at
missing. What's that?
it. It's because they don't aim at it. Plain and simple. They
Okay.
just they start whiffing rounds at it. They're just shooting at it, not aiming at it. I actually noticed this myself at an indoor match at Total Defense like a week ago. They can't have steel there, but
Yep.
what they did is they cut out some steel shaped poppers, and I found myself, I was like, wow, I crushed those really good. Why is that? Oh, because I actually looked at them and aimed at them because I knew I wouldn't see them fall over when I hit them.
Yeah, I was
It's
at that
yeah, they're just
matches.
not
Yeah.
being visually confirmed enough. Oh, that's right. You were there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was there. I missed it because I thought I hit it, but then, it doesn't drop. So I was like, oh shit, I had a miss on one of the steel paper, steel paper.
Exactly though. That's why I focused on it a lot because I knew I'm like, hey, you won't see these fall, you won't hear a hit, and that's how I think honestly you should be treating steel. Like in a real match, like you won't see it fall, you won't hear it, so you got to put a shot where you know you hit it. That's a good way to approach steel.
And I think it's because the steel just look more intimidating. And maybe maybe it's also because the steel, some of the steels are like just a little bit lower, is lower to the ground. So do you think that that makes a difference when people gotta aim just a uh, slightly under, or do you
Maybe
think
it's
is
it's it's that little bit of a height change is
yeah,
a good tool too. You see, I like to do that on my stages. Have a target where it's close enough to the berm, and I can do it. Be almost all the way at the bottom of the target sticks, just because that adds another depth of transition for you. And it might go the same way with steel. And if you're not looking very precisely at it, it's easy to go too low or stop short, or a little bit of height change can play with you sometimes. I bet.
speaking of steels, have you ever tried out a steel challenge match before?
I have. I've shot a couple of them up at SCAPSA.
Okay.
Um, I think the second one I went to, I technically GM'd and carry optics in the Steel Challenge. I think it's a really valuable training tool if you're doing USPSA. Also,
Why is
you get
that?
really good at you get really good at the surrender draw because that's how you have to start if you have a center fire pistol. And then it's all about one shot on target and transition. It's about you have to get good at calling your shot because you want to immediately transition off. You got to be fast, accurate transitions. It's kind of the shooting part of USPSA without all the other stuff. So it's a very raw, realistic, refined, condensed version of shooting targets because it's only shooting targets. You're not reloading on the clock. You're not really moving except for like one steel challenge stage. It's all about hits and transitions. So you can really dial in and work on that, especially because you get each stage is 5 strings. You get to shoot it 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty fun. I try to make it to more, but they always end up being on a weekend when I'm busy, and I love to make more of them.
So, in your in your opinion, since you're also a grandmaster in limited, do you think shooting a dot made you better iron shooter, or do you think
I'm a terrible.
you?
Sorry, I'll let you finish up first.
Oh, you say that you're terrible?
I'm a terrible iron shooter
Why is that? Why do you think you're terrible at irons?
because I never really learned how to line up the front and rear sight. So I kind of just end up painting the target with the front sight like it's a red dot.
Mm,
You can really see like I shot one major match in limited and 10 yards and in, I'm crushing people because I'm fast and point shooting and transitioning and splitting. But then when you get further out, 15 yards steel, 20-yard paper, I really start to struggle to line up those sights and be accurate. So it could be if you came from irons and switched to a dot, it's going to make you better and faster. I almost guarantee it.
okay. So okay. Man, I always thought that was the other way around. Um, Yeah, because the reason why I say that I thought that was the other way around is because with the red dot it's much easier to target focus, right? And then when
Yep.
you go to irons or back to irons, it will make it easier for you to target focus because uh for a lot of people that don't take shooting seriously, they usually front sight focus with irons, and when they try to go to uh target focus, they have a very hard time, and that including myself because I started with irons and I was front sight focused because I didn't know any better. So, and then when I tried to target focus with a dot, it was it was really hard to focus on the target instead of the dot. And then now that I'm used to target focusing, going back to the irons, target focusing with the irons is much easier. So,
So
but
basically,
I can't say that what I'm saying is true too because it's not like I compete a lot with iron. So, I mean, I am planning to this year with single stack, but that's just a maybe though.
that
So,
sounds fun. I would love to do one of those. But the way I find it is, I found I was very target focused with irons,
hmm
but I didn't have the index developed to consciously, like, when the targets became harder
hmm
is when I would struggle to be hitting them because just I wasn't indexing and getting those sights lined up. I was almost too target focused and I wasn't catching any input from the sights. You know what I
mm,
mean? So I finally noticed that if I went back to front sight focus, I could hit those far poppers. I could put hits on the far paper, but it slowed me down a lot. So like the some of the best GM scores I got to make GM and limited were fast, close, hosey classifiers. So that shows you how they can be deceiving sometimes.
yeah, okay,
Burn some stages down with the best of them at 7 yard paper
yeah.
targets and 7 yard steel. Oh man, I was ripping like 11 splits with the 40 cal gun. It was awesome.
Did you reload it for your limited gun or were
Yep,
you just
yep,
shooting
yeah. I load
factory? Oh,
everything I
okay,
shoot except for shotgun and 22.
okay. So you're also a GM in limited optic, and you're shooting a 10 folio, which is double action, single action. So in your opinion, do you think there's a difference between carry optic and limited optic beside the
There's not enough
magwell?
difference.
Not much. Okay.
Not much. No, I think I proved that. I GM'd in limited optics with all carry optics gear, no
hmm
magwell, no race holster, no no single action. Exactly as I'd shoot a match in CO, I did it in limited optics. The hit factors were a little higher, which didn't make a ton of sense, but I don't think there's enough differentiation in those two divisions. I think they could roll it all into one somehow and
Yeah.
be fine. But
I think that was one of USPSA mistake is I think for carry optic they should have it 15 rounds instead of like the length of the mag because you could fit like 23 rounds into your carry optic and there's really no point in shooting limited optic unless you want to shoot a 2011 or something. But
yeah,
in
and
my opinion, it should have been like production optic instead of carry optic from the very beginning. Um, yeah, so that's why like for me, I don't th see myself switching over to limited optic just because there's already carry optic out there.
yeah, and then the funny part is how silly that division is. You could take what you got right now and shoot either division and do just about the same.
hmm
Like honestly, I looked at it. I shot the Kentucky section match in 2024. Stacked field. I think I was maybe 10th or something in carry optics there. If I would have been in limited optics, just switch division, I would have been third.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of funny, but it just shows you, yeah, there's not enough differentiation in those, and it's I think it was good for USPSA in a money sense. They're bringing
hmm
in a lot of shooters that wouldn't otherwise shoot, and so that's good for it. But I think, yeah, if carry optics was more of a production optics, and then limited optics was the kind of high cap
hmm
dot that isn't open, so you can shoot those 2011s and all that. They're very popular.
All right. All right. So before we end this podcast, let's talk about the match that you're hosting. So last year you hosted the Brass Monkey Bullets Northwood Showdown presented by JP Enterprise, and then which was a awesome match. And then this year you're hosting the Vortex Optic Northwood Showdown presented by JP Rifle. Um, let's did you design all those stages already, or are you still in the process of designing it?
We're still in process, but I'd like to have the rough drafts or almost be basically done by the end of the month because I
Okay.
want to get them into a match book. And unlike some matches, I want to get that info out as soon as possible because I do that with my local matches too. Because I'm like, hey, this is what you guys get to shoot. Hopefully that draws people in. They see, hey, it's not a bunch of stand and shoots, it's not a bunch of dumb stuff. It's good field courses that are challenging. So yeah, I want to get those. I've got probably half of them, and then I got my two other master guys, Justin and Ryan. We all have our own particular style of stage design, and it works really well. It's nice to get a mix. Ryan is really good at stages where the targets are kind of close, but they're very positional and choppy and fast. Justin is really good at making like kind of those fun, posy flow stages that flow really nicely a lot of times. And then I'm kind of good at just making things difficult
Yeah.
for people in shooting.
So I know that this year you're also having prizes. How does that work? For those who are listening that wants to or that is thinking about shooting this match.
So basically, we have more time. We're learning. We're getting better at it. So we're soliciting more sponsors. You know, we've made a bigger name. We want to be able to give the sponsors a return too, which is good publicity and advertising. And so basically, anything donated by sponsors to the match is going to be random draw prizes for all the shooters. Everybody will have the same odds of winning the prizes. I'm sure we'll get a nice selection of stuff from Vortex. We're gonna have a bunch of brass monkey bullets. I think I'm gonna get some and load a bunch of dummy rounds with brass monkey bullets to give away to people there, like practice drive-by rounds.
Hmm.
Uh, we've got Boaz Ammo. He's a small ammo company out of Tennessee that does like good USPSA lower power factor ammo, and he loads with a lot of brass monkey bullets. So that's pretty cool. We've got AT3 Tactical. They're a AR pistol kind of general seller of all sorts of stuff that's Minnesota based.
Hmm.
Fantastic supporters of shooting sports in Minnesota. Um, and we've got JP Rifles, which is another great, fantastic local company. Supports a ton of shooting sports and all sorts of stuff. We're very excited for what we have. If I missed any, I super apologize. I don't have it on hand right now, but I did have a cool one. A group of guys, the club Chicago Gunslingers. I'm not sure if you heard of them. They're in Chicago area. They just donated cash. So
Mm.
basically, I'm going to take that cash and we're going to make everything we get for lunch and snacks supported by them.
Mm.
So we'll have delicious lunch, all sorts of snacks, beverages, all sorts of stuff supported by them. So that's pretty cool. And then we'll have our traditional also cash payouts for top finishers. I
Yeah, I
think
was gonna
last year
ask you
we
about
gave
that.
away. Yeah, we can hit me with your question. And I can give you the more specifics.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Pretty much. I was just gonna say, how does the cash payout work?
All right. So the way we're doing it for every paid competitor, what staff obviously don't pay to shoot, so they don't have any money that contributes to the pot. But for every paid competitor in the specific division they shoot, $40 from their match fee goes into the division purse. And then first place in that division gets 40% of all that money. And then the next place down gets 40% of the remaining money. And so on until it's like $50, I think is where we cut it off because it just becomes a headache trying to compute it all. So like last year, I think Limited Optics first place was $750.
Hmm.
I think CO was over 700. And you can see the smaller the division, obviously the less the payout is. I think Limited was $200, stuff like that. But it's what we think we want to do to put money back into the sport. We could we could take all that money and do stuff at the club, but I don't think that's where it needs to go. We don't
Yep.
have a huge overhead, and that's why, like for example, we didn't have a ton of prizes last year because a lot of matches will take the match fee and buy prizes with it. I think that's kind of a waste of money and runaround.
Mm.
Do you want to pay $200 for a match and get a prize that you basically bought yourself, or do you want to pay less money, maybe not get prizes, but have a way better match? You
Yeah.
know?
So pretty much, don't shoot revolver then, because you're not gonna get
Yeah, there's
nothing.
probably not a payout.
I
I'm hoping
was
more people sign up in PCC because Max Leo Grandis and Justine Williams are currently signed up in that because it's right before the PCC World Shoot.
okay.
So they're going to be there doing some work, and if anybody in PCC will want to shoot against them. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, dude. I know that this match is gonna be so good. I got one of my buddy from North Carolina signed up for last night. So
very
yeah,
cool,
dude.
very cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for this match, man. Um, but yeah, man. Anything else about this match that you want to share?
We're just gonna keep trying to make it bigger and bigger. This year has been really good so far. We learned from last year, and we started recruiting staff like almost immediately after the match last year because that was an issue we had. We didn't know how much staff we needed, and a big thing I want people to bear with me. Obviously, I'm pretty new to running major matches, so every time we do a match, we're going to learn from it, and it's going to be better than the last one. So that's a big one. But we've got a ton of staff. It's going to be great there. We got people coming in. I've got my stepdad's going to cook lunch again. He was the chef for lunch last year. I'm thinking we'll do burgers. I've heard people. He wants to do pulled pork, like really good barbecue pulled pork, but some people don't like a meal that heavy at a match. And it's just a match that is for shooters by shooters.
Hmm.
I'm putting on the kind of match I would want to see if I paid to travel to it,
Yeah.
where you just do everything you can to make sure all your stuff works, the stages are fair and equitable and still challenging and interesting. And yeah, so hopefully it continues to grow, and this year sets another good example.
Yeah, man. So for anyone that wants to sign up for this match, I will put it in the description. And then yeah, you could find it on practice score. Um, so yeah, before we end this podcast, where can people find you?
Just straight up Instagram at Tanfo_Timmy. Pretty infamous maybe now.
Okay. Yeah, and I will also put your Instagram on in the description also.
Awesome.
So yeah, man, I think we got a lot of information out there. I think I did okay on this podcast compared to my other one. I think it's just
Yeah, I
because
mean,
yep,
it's just like shooting. You get better by doing it.
yep.
I'm glad I can help you get this started, and I think this could be a really cool format. Like it can be very informational for people. I see that's kind of at least the direction this one was. You ask a lot of questions and you put a lot of information out there for people to listen to.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I think it's also because you and we do competitive shooting, so um, I could relate to a lot of stuff that you're saying too. So that helps a lot. Anything else before I we end this?
Um, I guess it's a kind of a cool, fun announcement right at the end, but I recently got sponsored by Vortex. I'm
Oh,
I'm going to
okay.
be a legit brand ambassador for them going forward. So that's some really exciting news from my side of things. I'm
Congrats,
very
man.
excited for that. That's kind of a real move in the future, and it's because I guess it's a huge part of getting sponsored by them is because I do what I do. Like you say, do a lot for everything, and that's what they want to see out of their shooters. You want to be that person to squad with and be that person that's helping, and I'm glad they thought that highly of me to bring me on. So I'm really excited to represent them and all the other companies I represent also.
Dude, that's awesome, dude, and congrats, dude. So I understand that as a sponsor shooter, you have to say positive things about their product. We all know that. But in your opinion, how is their Vortex Defender XL compared to like the Hollow Sun 507 Comp, the SRO? Yeah, yeah, those two. How does it compare to those two, in your opinion?
So I'll start it off by showing you this Tanto. See how it doesn't have a slide on it right now?
Yep.
That's because it's sent out to Patriot Defense getting milled. It used to be an SRO footprint. They're going to change it to the footprint for the Defender XL.
Okay.
You think I would be sending guns out for dots that I didn't fully trust?
Yeah.
I got the first Defender XL pretty early in 2024, and I put like 5 or 8 thousand rounds on it. Slide right on the IWI Jericho I have, just beating on it, trying to break it, and it never broke. It's been phenomenal. I've had one on my comp Tanto now. It's slide ride. It's shooting like 150 power factor 9 mil, and it's doing great. Like 3,000 rounds on it. It's I'm really excited for the durability I'm seeing. Some of the features, like it's a big 8 MOA dot. I thought I would hate it because I came from a 2.5 MOA SRO. But with the big dot, you can turn it way dimmer and it's almost translucent. It's way more crisp. Some of the comparisons, I'd say it's pretty similar to the 507. The battery doesn't eject itself on the Defender, so that's a nice feature,
Yeah.
like the 507.
Yeah.
But um, uh, the reason I'd pick it over the 507 pretty easily is it's an American company. You know, I'd much rather support those local to me than that. There's more brightness settings, very similar price point as the 507 also, versus the SRO. So I shot SROs for like 2.5 years because they were just the gold standard of reliability. You took a lot of sacrifices from that SRO, like the slightly aspherical lens, the horrible double dot in the sun, the
Hmm.
slight blue tint to it, the lack of brightness settings. I felt like I was always in between a setting. Like, oh, I wish there was one in between these two. But I sacrificed all that because it was extremely reliable.
Yeah.
And that's why I beat on a Defender before I even thought about like asking Vortex about being sponsored. I wasn't going to put something on my guns I didn't already think was going to work. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like I was going to run them pretty much anyways, and this just made it easier to do that. So that was really lucky on my part. Um, yeah, I'm really excited about them. I've got a 40 cal gun out, getting cut for slide ride defender right now. I'm gonna shoot limited 10 optics and make GM in it. Hopefully,
Oh yeah,
have you
dude.
heard they passed that rule by the board?
So yeah, I was gonna ask you something about that too, where if they were ever gonna make limited optic 10, because I do want to shoot single stack, but then I love red dot too much to go to irons. So so did you say it passed already, or was it
Yeah,
always been
the
there?
board. No, the board only recently approved it, like at the last board meeting for USPSA, and
Okay.
it takes effect on January 31st, I believe.
Ah,
So
okay.
basically, it's limited 10, but with
Yep.
an optic. You can add either frame mounted or slide ride. They didn't specify. So same exact rules as limited, but 10 rounds and an optic. So I've got a
Okay.
40 cal stock too. We're going to shoot some 40 cal major power factor with a slide ride red dot and 10 rounds, and we're going to have some fun.
Damn, dude. Yeah, dude. Now I'm pretty excited because
This one that's got a slide sent out for it.
wow. Okay. Damn. That's good because
It's going to
uh,
be a blast.
yeah, I was gonna buy the Springfield Rowan AOS model and where you could put a dot on it, but then I was like, man, I don't know if I really want to buy it because I don't want to shoot irons. But now that you say that, that might be my next purchase. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty nice. And you know what, speaking of red dots, I wish that there would be a company that make a red dot that allows you to have 2 MOA all the way to like an 8 MOA, you know? Or where like
That's
you
an
could choose
interesting.
which dot you want. Not I'm just talking about the single dot. I'm not talking about like
Yeah.
you know how Hollow have the other reticle. I don't care about that, but I don't think there's any dot that does that, which is
I think they'd have an issue with it because how the dot is formed, it's by a specifically sized little LED light bulb in the
mm,
emitter. So a bigger dot just has a bigger bulb. So if you had numerous different dots, it might change how they would zero because you couldn't stack all of them right on top of each other. You know what I mean? I think
yeah.
that's my uneducated thought of how it would work. But I know the Defender, they're coming out with a 2.5 MOA Defender XL soon. They've got a 5 MOA, and I run the eights. But I'm gonna hopefully pick up a 2.5 for like an offset on my rifle.
Mm, okay. So for now, you're sticking with the eight MOA then.
Oh, yeah, I'll keep the eights on my pistols. I love them. I
Okay.
thought I was gonna hate it, but I won at multi gun nationals in 23 or 24. I won an 8 MOA, and I was like, what the heck? Let's see
Yeah.
what I think of this dot. And I love it. I hated it. You couldn't have paid me money to try it before I
Yeah.
won one and tried the eight, and I was like, this is amazing. So you have to check it out one time you're out at the range, and you might be converted.
So how's it shooting far distant target with a eight MOA dot? Do you still there's no
Not,
difference?
not really, not much
Okay.
difference. I mean, I wouldn't want a dot that big on a rifle
Mm-hmm.
because I mean that'll be 8 inches at 100 yards, but
Yep.
at 50 yards it's 4 inches. USPSA is not shooting any target that's
Yeah.
4 inches at 50 yards.
Okay. All right,
And
Matt.
the other beauty is I make it so dim that there's like no bloom on the edges, so it's a very crisp dot. You're hard pressed to tell how big it is compared to like a 5 MOA or something else. It's pretty interesting how it works out.
And as of right now, the Vortex XL only Defender XL only have red dot, right? Not green.
Correct, just red and
Okay.
5 and 8 MOAs.
Have you ever tried the green dot?
I haven't shot a green dot. I shot iron sighted gun with a green fiber, and I
Hmm.
couldn't see anything. I was just so not used to looking for green. It was horrible.
Okay. Yeah, because I was going to try green, but then I was like, I think I'm just gonna stick to what I'm used to.
If
But
it's
Ben
not
Steger
broke,
did
don't
say that
fix it.
the green was good.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's why like I'm since Ben Steger said it, I probably want to try the green. But I kind of don't want to go back to the Hollow 757 comp. I didn't really like it to be honest, so I'll just stick with the SRO for now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong. They're extremely rugged dots. They treated me very well for a long time.
Yep.
So
All right, man. Anything else?
that's all I can think of. I think I said more than enough on my end, right?
All right, well, if nothing else, then we could end it. I just want to thank you for giving me your time to hop on this podcast and talk with me, and you're my second guest, so I really appreciate that. And for those people that want to look you up, I will have your Instagram um posted in the description, and also your match that you're hosting this year. So yeah, man. For anyone who wants to compete in a good match, make sure you guys sign up for this match, man. You guys will not regret it. Um, so yeah, if nothing else, then let's wrap it up.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too.
All right, see you next time. All right, bye.